So I have a dear friend and Spirit Sister. Her YouTube channel is Spirit Led Steph, and she just released a video yesterday about a particular movie on Netflix and watching it from a spiritual perspective, a spirit perspective. And this has become the habit of watching movies through the spiritual eye, from from a spiritual perspective, from a higher perspective, has become a revolutionary state of mind, a revolutionary uh, tool in my life and in many others in the last few years. Another friend of mine and well-known spiritual teacher and spirit brother, David Hoffmiester. He's a very well-known teacher of A Course in Miracles. And I talk about miracles on this channel because I've been a long time practitioner and student of a book called A Course in Miracles. And the crux of A Course in Miracles is mind training. It provides everything that the mind needs to wake up from a seemingly very fearful world that we seem to live in, that we seem to have an awareness of, that we seem to engage with in what seems like for days, weeks, months, and years. Okay? And it seems like a really frightening world covered over by some really wonderful distractions and roles we can play and things we can act out that were designed by what's called the ego mind to distract us away from remembering the truth of who we are, which is an extension of God. We are pure light. Now, I know that can be hard to believe. It took me what seems like a long time to accept that. But through the mind training of A Course in Miracles, which happens to be my spiritual path, and as I've said many times in this channel, you know, A Course in Miracles is not necessarily everyone's path, but it is mine. And when you come across something like A Course in Miracles, you know immediately if it's for you. Now, there are many other ways to find our way to remember God, to remember who we are. But A Course in Miracles has a particular, very, very potent, very direct way of helping us see through the eyes of love and peace, and to be at peace no matter what seems to be going on. And that doesn't mean that we don't address the things that are going on, that we think, seem to be going on in our lives or in the world. But really what we're supposed to do is address how we feel, what our emotions are and what our beliefs are and what our thoughts are. And those steps are the way out of what seems like a very dense, repetitive world that is based on a death wish. So that's just some highlights of the process of awakening according to A Course in Miracles. So getting back to the subject, though, of watching movies for the purpose of awakening, my friend Stefania has also a YouTube channel. And she recently, like I said earlier, did a video about the movie called K-Pop Demon Hunters. Now, I won't go into what she talks about. I will, however, put a link to her current video in my description section so you can check it out yourself. But the point here is to be able to watch entertainment, movies, for example, from a higher perspective. Now, in truth, once we start going through a spiritual awakening and mind training, we really should be able to watch any movie in any genre from a Holy Spirit perspective. Because the teachings of the Course make it clear to us that our lives, what we think is going on in our lives, is really a giant movie screen, which with a script that has already been plotted out to some extent, and that we have a choice of how we're going to experience this. It's either going to be through the ego, which, we know what that is, right? Or we have another choice. We can see through the eyes of the Holy Spirit, the voice for God, the spiritual eye, which is a direct extension of the mind of God to us. Okay? That's always available. Some people call it intuition. Some people call it guidance. Whatever you want to call it, we have it available to us, which can guide us through every aspect of our lives and offers a higher perspective, which has to do with everything being orchestrated in such a way that we experience miracles in our mind, which is a loosening from fearful beliefs to loving ideas. And therefore, we then see the effects of that in our lives. So, this idea of watching movies from a spiritual perspective has really been a groundbreaking, game-changing, for lack of a better term, activity for me. And I first started to discover this when I discovered YouTube videos from David Hoffmiester. Now I won't link any of his videos because he has so many. He has a huge, huge catalog of videos that you might want to check out. David Hoffmiester, okay? You might want to check him out because he has hundreds of movies where he goes into detail about various movies and the spiritual themes to these movies and how they can be interpreted in such a way that help us wake up. And he has a movie collection also called Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment. Now, I will put that link in the description box. It's a website where you can check out this vast movie collection. And I'll guarantee you it's not what you think. It's not just documentaries and it's not documentaries about meditation. It's not just movies about religious scenarios. No, it's way more vast than that because there are so many movies that I was unaware of that actually lend themselves to these teachings. And let's face it, movies are more than just, they're more than just entertainment. How many times have we watched a movie where we were drawn into the story, where we cared about and could relate to the characters, and we were overwhelmed by emotion. And to me, the best movies are the ones that show the arc of the human experience, where there's things that the characters have to face. They have to face their fears. They have to face their beliefs. They have to open their hearts. And at some point in the movie, there's a huge shift where they open up to love. Now, most movies that are out there, do not have overt spiritual symbols or religious symbols. Some do. Most don't, though. Because, I find most people are very afraid to have a lot of bad connotations when it comes to religious symbols. And I get that. I used to feel that way. But these movies that I'm talking about, particularly the ones that lend themselves to a spiritual awakening, they do not necessarily contain overt religious symbols, but they have symbols embedded within the characters and the storylines that play out this divine awakening that every single person, seemingly person, every child of God is destined to do. We are all destined to remember where we came from. And in fact, indeed, that is the point of our experience here, if we choose it. The other option is to simply delay it for a while. We can delay it for a while, and what seems like lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, where we just sort of act out and repeat the same scenarios in different forms. And even within what seems like a lifetime, you can look back and see all the patterns, right? Now we can either avoid that and bury ourselves in fantasy and roles and acting out things and going for pleasure and distracting ourselves from God, or we can turn to God and hand everything over and allow God to orchestrate our lives in such a way that we have, not only do we heal, but we live in such a way that is so powerful, and that the love of God will pour out through us while using everything that we believe in, everything that we want, everything that we cling to, right? Because the other way I've noticed, definitely for me, is that the more I avoided this, the worse things seem to get in what seemed like my life. It's like the messages got louder and louder and louder. The universe would just send different forms that seemed more intense than the last form of something. So, it's different for everyone. Everyone has an individualized curriculum. A Course in Miracles does state that we all have an individualized curriculum that's tailored to us, what we think is our own personality. However, the overall goal is the same for everyone, is to remember the truth of who we are. And your choice, our choice, brothers and sisters, is whether we're going to delay it or we're going to go for it now. I recommend going for it now. Why wait? But the movies that I'm talking about, many of them that I discovered in the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment, were not what I expected at all. Like, for example, today I'm watching Joe versus the Volcano. That's a classic movie from the 80s, I believe, with a young Tom Hanks and Meg Ryan, and it's a comedy. Now, when I first saw that movie back in the 80s, I didn't get the messages then. I just thought it was funny, or whatever. But now I realize, now I can embrace these deeper messages and the things that it is speaking of in that movie. So there are movies that definitely show the human condition and show what we go through as in the human condition, and trying to wake up, trying to discover the joy and happiness that we truly are, and face these egoic patterns, face the fact that we steered our mind towards a thought system that is in direct opposition to the love of God. That's what this world is. But we can turn it around. And I highly recommend watching movies in this new way, because it's no longer about just sitting and wanting entertainment so we can zone out and forget about our problems. Why do that? To me, it makes much more sense to incorporate divine logic, not human logic, divine logic, and say, okay, I want to wake up. I want to be truly happy, not because I'm waiting for a carrot, some in the world, some kind of temptation or some kind of outcome. No, I want to be happy because I now know that I'm here for a reason, and I am loved by God, and I'm here to be happy and joyful and extend that out. Extend it out. So I invite you to join with me today in taking a look at the Movie Watcher's Guide to Enlightenment. Again, I'll leave the website link in the description section. So you can check out the movies on that website. You'll be amazed, and you'll start to look at things in a different way. I also recommend checking out David Hoffmiester, a friend of mine here on YouTube. He has so many YouTubes where he goes into the commentary. He provides deep commentary that will blow your mind, and you will just be so excited about life from here forward and watching movies. I'll also put a link to 1555, as I said that. I'll also put a link to my beloved Spirit Sister Stefania, Spirit Led Steph, to her YouTube channel where she's talking about how to watch this particular movie from a spiritual perspective. It's a beautiful way to wake up, and I highly recommend it. Many blessings.